What's up, man? So a lot's happened since we've been here last. I mean, Jermaine got a nose ring, 2020.
Bring it in, new things.
That's it. Lionel, my man.
What's happening?
Introduce yourself. How do we know him?
I think we know each other from
Long time.
Capitella, my fighting days, and then I finally just converted.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah, man. So I had seen Lionel for the backstory, I guess. So he's been a member now for quite a few months, enjoying the M. He's got a little bit more media than I'd say the rest of us. He's got a little less. Let's just wing it, and a little bit more. He can put some clean stuff together. And so two parts is like, one, we're like, man, it'd be dope if we get him in. We can actually start doing some podcasts. But two, as long as I've known you now, and as much as you've just been an awesome member here, like. We need somebody that's right in between Jermaine and Steve. And you're the guy.
I feel like it'll be a good fit in there.
Yeah. So I think I first saw Lionel in like 2000, probably 12, and Paul was fighting at the time, and you were still fighting at the time, and so we'd been around each other for a while, and I wasn't actually doing jiu-jitsu at the time, and so it's crazy. All the same characters been around each other for a long time, and we've been fight buddies now for a while, and we're glad to have you, man. For sure. No doubt. Well, it's good, man. So 2020, we're done with that.
Yeah, moving on.
That's it. 2021, new time. You know, it's crazy too, and obviously there's a new administration, and everybody's got different political views and everything else. But like, I think one thing that we could definitely just remember is like, we're all just humans, right? It's plenty of time and opportunity to get better, and regardless of what your different beliefs are, everybody believes in gains. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's it. So we are united behind the gains. Here's a question. So macros, Rob, you ready? Explain the percentage of the three depending on your goals, right? So I was actually thinking about a whole analogy over here and back you up on this, but driving over and thinking about this kind of thoroughly, but you know, everybody says kind of calories in, calories out, right? And so what's good, man? Give a little background on what the macros
hasty
are.
vignette, what you first have to know is the scale is your calories. Scale is a reflection of how much energy you get in the tissue. Macros are a reflection of how you look in the mirror and how you can perform in the gym. So if we say there's a specific percentage, it's predicated on how much energy, meaning how many calories you're putting in. The first and foremost thing you have to worry about is getting the right amount of minimum protein in. So really you never want to dip below 30%. Anything above 50% is generally devoid.
You never go below 30%.
Never.
As if you're main and you're 2 and change, then you never want to, ideally the best, easiest numbers throughout all peer-reviewed scholarly articles since like the 70s has been 1 gram per pound. That's a very good sweet spot. So however that aggregates out on your percentage, if you start with that, you won't lose muscle, and you can always ensure gains through easier consumption of fats or carbs.
Some people have a problem with that though. So I've heard people say, like, how do I get that much protein in a day? It's hard to get it in. So like, what options can they have besides just eating? Should they eat regular food and supplement with shakes just to meet that number? Or what would y'all say?
That's a good question. It's the power of the chew, right? Yeah. You know what I mean? So like you've lost
ton of weight.
Yeah, a ton of weight, right? So
I've lost a lot of weight.
Right. So my man he was definitely jacked and bulky, but done lean down. So what did we do there, man?
I think we did a form of keto.
Yeah.
And that's what always worked for me when I was fighting. Believe it or not, I fought at 170 pounds. So I started there.
Yeah, right.
170 pounds. So my first fight was at heavyweight, was 225 and above, and I gradually shrunk. Then went to 205 and fought 4 or 5 at 185. And 185 was such an easy cut that I thought I was going to do. Thought I was going to do very well at 170. In hindsight, I probably should have stayed at 185. I could have probably dominated that, having like strength and conditioning combined and energy.
Right.
170 was miserable, like a nightmare. The only 2 fights that I ever lost was at 170 because I had the worst weight cut and my mental was already off. The dudes that I lost to, no disrespect to them, but I shouldn't have lost to them.
Yeah,
it was all mental. Like I didn't feel like I could beat them, or in my head. But with this, I think I've lost close to 60 pounds, and I came here in May, but I haven't lost the size of my clothes fit different. You know, my clothes, my waistline's smaller, but as far as like my shoulders and like everybody complimenting like my size, and it's still there. You know,
Right.
but it's just a different.
That's it.
Different
That's
look.
it. And you know what's funny is so like the kind of the easiest term is to say keto, and I know exactly what you did because we're working together, right? So
That's the only thing I can relate it to. You know, 'cause,
exactly.
like, it was
That's the fastest, easiest way to explain to people. But you know, it brings kind of the reason I asked him was the same question. It's like, okay, so what's what? Like calorically, he probably didn't. We actually increased his calories, right? So more calories came in. How was it that he continues to lean down? And you know what's funny is it's kind of like. Not all food that you eat is used for the same purposes, and that's kind of the thing behind the macros. And it would be like if you were investing and you were, so you bought a house, right? So a house would be like taking in protein, right? Then you also bought some stocks, right? And that's more like taking in a little bit of fat. And then maybe, you know, the last thing that you got is you just got cash in the bank, right? So if you want to go buy something, right? Well, you just go get the cash and you go buy something, and that's your carbs, right? If you want to buy something, you're having to use your house, right? Well, there's a long process to break that house down into actual liquid cash to be able to buy something at that point. And that's what kind of so many people fail to recognize is like if all your food is in the form of cash, right? Well, as the economy, your body changes, you don't have any hard assets. You don't have a house. You don't have any stocks. You don't have anything to back that up. And that's kind of what happens with all of your macros as a whole. So if you're trying to lean down, that was kind of the first question, lean versus bulk versus maintain. Start with hard assets because as the economy of your body changes, things are going to change with it. So you better get that house, right? Get 2 or 3 houses, and that's the gram of protein kind of per body weight at that point. And the great part is if you look at it, again, from an economic standpoint, and you say, like, goal 1 is don't lose, right? It's not about gaining. It's about not losing your muscle. And if you don't lose your muscle, as you slowly make adjustments in there, then you're good, right? Because if you're getting leaner, lighter, but you're maintaining your muscle, that's the exact thing. If you're just getting lighter, it's like spending cash. You know what I mean?
So for the folks who believe in not eating so much,
We
to
killed
lose
them.
weight.
Yeah, we killed them. No. You know what? Go ahead.
No. They're killing themselves because, from my understanding, y'all can correct me, like when you don't eat, your metabolism stops.
Slows down.
Your body uses your muscle versus the fat. You're not going to burn fat. Body uses your muscle.
Yeah.
Eats that. So
Yeah.
people who I had a couple guys. There's one guy in my class. He lost 57 pounds. You know,
Yeah,
it's kind of
yeah.
overweight. He looks great now.
For sure.
But he did the what's the fasting window thing?
Intermittent.
Yeah. And he lost 57 pounds, but he lost muscle.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
he's skinnier, he's smaller.
That's right.
But like,
Yeah, exactly,
muscle
right?
or so
You know, that I think, and this is just a hypothesis, and so first off, like, let me start with it. If you are definitely obese and you've been trying to lean down or get smaller, period, and you get smaller, that's a fucking victory, right? You know, that being said, you want to probably not take, this is a very anecdotal answer I'm going to give right here, but you want to try not to, COVID? Too soon to say that? Right? Too soon? Too soon? Right? You want to try not to have a giant excess of skin as well, right? And so you're
Right.
trying to lean down in a way that helps your skin stay very healthy in that process and retighten up. And at some point, like, again, like I said, it depends on how heavy you go. No matter what, you're going to have excess skin. But you have seen people who have been able to lean down, and it begs the difference of, like, how does that happen? So I think early on, if you're trying to lean down, you're trying to get lighter, and you are substantially overweight, then who cares how you get there, right?
true.
I think you got to frame the problem. So if you identify the problem, then you can build back where your end state is going to be. Key tests into it, right? So if you're just obese and you have extra fat to get rid of,
Right.
well, it's stored as adipose tissue and energy, so force that use of energy. So intermittent fasting, vice cutting calories, vice cutting keto, even a high carb diet,
Any and all.
it's a caloric deficit.
That's right.
If I put less things in than I use, the water in the cup, i.e. my energy, continues to go down.
That's right.
So regardless to the means in which the end state's the same.
That's right.
And then to that point of not
Exactly.
losing muscle, atrophying your energy, creating such a caloric deficit that you go down, say 60 pounds in a year, vice 20 pounds over 3 years, that tissue, the rigidity of it and the elasticity can continue to shrink because those cells are getting smaller.
That's
Vice
right.
the super large cut where you relieve skin folds.
That's right.
It's
So
just
that's what I
not.
did.
That's
Super
it.
large cut.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But you can see in my photos at 170 that I still had fat to lose.
Right.
Yeah, subcutaneous fatty.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And so, how is it that you're getting lighter? Well, you're tearing down the house.
Right, and that's
right.
right. You could see like my face
right.
is scoured.
Termites.
It was horrible. It was a horrible time. So
Got
Yeah.
termites.
that's another
You
thing.
gotta
Like, like I'm trying to do it right. So the goal was a couple of CrossFit comps, and then I call him my godfather, Daniel.
Yep.
We're gonna do he just told me about a combatives tournament in March.
Cool.
Which I'll start to.
That's a
process
fight to
that.
win one.
Yeah, it's a slap
Yeah.
in the face.
Yeah, I'll be fighting with that one too. Yeah.
Yeah, stay
Very
out of my
cool.
weight class. I'm trying to mess with you, all right? This is a get back into it.
Nah, we straight. We straight.
And then we'll skyrocket and see what the rest of 2021 has to offer, man. I do hope to slap somebody in the face on there.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Very cool, man. That's exciting.
I feel like it slaps.
Is the
Way
worst.
worse than a punch.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know
So
what I'm saying?
disrespectful.
Disrespectful.
So
Like-
disrespectful.
Right? And so one of our jiu-jitsu black belts, Danny. So Danny and Daniel, and are hilarious. They're the kind of mom and dad of the organization there, right? So they keep each other in check and everything else. So Danny is the if they were sandpaper, right? So Daniel's like 220 grits, like smooths, get everything. And Danny's like 40 grit, like at all
right.
times. Like we're getting the fucking paint off of this thing, right?
Yeah.
So he's playing. It's like no. They say slap. We're talking palm strikes,
Yep.
right? These aren't slaps. These are palm strikes, right? So when he says slaps, what he really means is I'm going to punch him with my hand. Right?
Get there. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
So-
Man, speaking of fights, you know what? It's like we don't want to cover it too much because by the time they hear this, the fight will be done. So I guess we'll go predictions. McGregor, Poirier predictions there.
I'm going with McGregor.
Yeah, got to, right?
Yeah, which one?
Till
You
you
know-
beat him.
Yeah, it's wild, right? So you watch. If you actually go back and watch the fight with him and Khabib is probably like one of my faves because I like a smash style, right? It's how I try to do my jiu-jitsu too. I just want to be like a virus that's going to crawl up your body and just wear you down. It's like, what's my submission? Taking all your air away from you
Yep.
via smashing you, and then I'll see if I got like 3 submissions, right? But good enough. I'm mostly control. It's like, you submitted you. I didn't submit you. And if you actually go back and watch this fight, it's pretty interesting. There's so much emotions watching the first fight, trying to, what's going to happen? You're almost nervous for him. He actually did pretty well against Khabib. And you consider where he was at kind of mentally, headspace-wise, life-wise at that time. It's like, dude just brand new on his 100 million, living wild.
Yeah.
Son, but I think real young son at this point. So his kid's grown up a little bit. He's dadded out a little bit. I'd be curious to see what happens. I would love to see him and Khabib make it for
You've
the
been
second
disrespecting
together.
that dude, man. I watched
But he
some of
should.
that.
He should.
Like,
I'd do the same thing if I wouldn't get balled up.
Dude said he wanted to stop after his dad died. I mean, I feel like
Right.
He did. I saw the one he did on ESPN. He did say, "I understand. The family's a different aspect, but
Yeah.
he did say he did keep it real. Say like he's scared of him. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I mean, because fighting is not a. It's not
Exactly.
It's a way to entice you back in by saying those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So like,
But fighting is not like, oh, come back in and we'll slap
Right.
hands. Like,
You don't talk shit, you don't come back in.
As they say, you
Like,
don't
it is
play
it is-
fight.
Yeah,
You know what
there's
I
no
mean?
such thing as that, man. So I like the respect that in the guys that actually talk it and walk it at the same time too.
Yeah, it is a new breed of trash talk that both of them have this time, and it's like just it's the same level of entertainment, just a little less emotionally invested
Yeah.
in everything they say, and it's actually a little bit more enjoyable. It's a new category we didn't know existed until it got created, because it was kind of like the all gentlemen's versus the almost bad blood to the like when you're sitting in the room and you're just talking trash and let's just let the outcome be the outcome. So
Right,
sure.
it's been pretty interesting for sure. One of my buddies, I went to school with this guy. One of his questions, right? Because I fielded some of these questions up was, do you even lift, bro? Right? So, you get trolled on all levels from all things.
If you're getting asked that.
Do you even lift?
I get.
I don't think he ever got asked that question before.
No.
It's the best
It's
compliment.
obvious. It's obvious.
Yeah. If you get asked that, you're doing it right.
Right. Right.
Nobody's like, oh, you're literally like, oh, you got me good. I'm 5'4" and 190.
That's funny.
That's what's up.
That's
what's
funny.
up. Let's see. Nutrition for BJJ when you're cutting weight, right? So, what's your experience in camp? Because I obviously have my own. I went down a weight class, so I was a 208 heavyweight for almost. All right, so actually that's not accurate. For like the first 3 or 4 competitions I did as a blue belt, I was a 195, and I was so close to the limit that I was kind of monitoring my food the whole time, and that ended up being a great detriment. So I was like, all right, YOLO. I went up to 208. I only weighed about 200 in the gi. Fought, did well, but then quarantine happened, and I got shredded like a Julian salad and came back down to 95, right? So I'll kind of talk about what that looks like, but curious for you is, what was training like for you in a camp where you're simultaneously cutting and trying to perform at the same time?
Well, I was doing this off the cuff as far as my food intake and trying to figure
just
it out.
winging it, right?
Just winging it, like all right. I was like
Nachos bad.
Yeah,
Chicken
so
good.
Right, I would run on Monday and be okay. This is where my weight's at. So
Right.
I would compare my weights each week to see and then compare the workout and see how much I would lose that week compared to the workout. Because I didn't have a coach. I didn't have I didn't have Capital or even a fight camp for my first. This is kind of a secret. For like my first 5 fights, I just like trained with this dude in like a box like this, and then I was just naturally athletic, and I won those. And then Danny and Daniel came and grabbed it up. So as far as the diet goes,
When you walked in, then it said Lionel James, and it goes. Training style, street fighter.
Street fighter. I said yard. I said Kimbo Slice.
Yard.
I didn't have. I was just keeping track in a notebook of how much I was losing each week and how much I had to be at and what I had to be at by week. Let's say 2 weeks before the fight.
Right.
So how much I could shred. On Saturdays I would practice. Not Saturdays. Fridays were our main weigh-ins, just like in the UFC. So on Fridays I would practice cutting as much weight as I could. Not possibly do, but I would go for a long run, the sauna bag and all that stuff. It was so unhealthy. But I would see where I was at, by the end of that, by 3 o'clock, because that's what times the weigh-ins were at. And then at this time, I was still working a full-time job at the fire department, so I had to put out fires and all that stuff too. So it was miserable. But I didn't have, this was 2009, so MMA was still kind of fairly new to everything. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, man. It's funny because that's the general approach to nutrition and fitness, period, is that it's treated as though it's not a multivariate outcome. Right. So it's treated as exactly that. So if I look at this chart and I go, okay, I weigh this, I got to eventually get to this, then I will just make these actions, right? And I will just, it's like the, when you see people, again, economics and gains, they go hand in hand. And people are like, okay, well, if you save $1 today, then you save $2 more, and you get this compounding interest. It's like, cool, but regardless, your ability to match that compound interest becomes almost impossible, right? So it's the same way. You have to take a multivariate approach to get the outcome that you're looking for, and that's exactly it. You can just cut calories like the dude you went to school with and lose weight, but is it going to end up with the investments you're looking for, right? The body composition investments is the same thing. You're going to get to the fight, and like you said, the only 2 fights that you feel like you could have substantially did better at came down to a singular variable outcome to get where you wanted to go, right? You know what I mean?
But like I said, I didn't have no guidance.
Yeah, absolutely.
I should have stayed at 85.
Dude, I'm with you. You know, it's funny. How long you've been in the Army now?
17 and a half years.
Right, and so, so we went in about the same time. Jermaine, he's like 48, so he went in. Hey, it don't crack though.
It don't crack.
All right, it don't crack.
I'm right behind you, not too far, but I'm there.
Right. All right. So, side note on that question. Also, for your viewers at home, we reset the camera. All right, we ain't cut shit out.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. If
but I
you think we was dodging questions, nah, we cut shit out. Just so you know, there ain't no edits in here, right?
No.
So before I finalize that question, a good buddy of mine said that he's is Kenny, right?
Okay.
So Black Kenny. And
they could be brothers.
I know white Kennys too, but we both know the same Kenny,
Yeah,
right.
and we know a white Kenny too. So,
Yeah.
right?
It's ironic how similar they look.
It is, right? So, Kenny? He knows Kenny too.
Okay.
Tall Kenny?
Yeah,
with the dreads. Yeah.
See, if I'd have said that, there'd have been a problem.
Right,
you know
right.
what I mean?
No, you're good. I know you too long.
No, I don't have a problem with you. I have a problem with the world.
Oh,
right?
right.
So, so anyway, so I'm like, Kenny, we was just making a joke about, obviously brothers always look younger than white dudes when you get to the end stage or whatever. And he's like, his man ain't got nothing to do with skin color. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, here's the deal. Every day since I've been alive, I've been told you better put some lotion on. It's like, we moisturize more than white dudes. You know what I mean?
That's a good way
Is
to
it
put it.
My
moisture
knees
or is
my
it
knees
the
are not ashy
melanin?
right now. so I gotta
Yeah,
put
just
some-
sitting here.
Oh, that's
Is it the
funny.
melanin or is it the moisturizer?
It's the moisture.
It's true. It's because like no white mom that I've ever met.
So what do
Like,
you
even
put
like
lotion on?
Dominican friends,
Yeah.
Latin friends, South American friends.
Yeah,
like,
that's it.
You ashy as
That's
hell,
right.
white boy. Like you just don't get told
That's
that.
right. You good, Ricky? Flank the back of that.
Hey, ironically, you guys
Hey,
are similar
here
too.
comes the hey. Ricky, come on in real quick.
Ironically.
Swing around here. If we don't have, look, we got another large Jack brother with dreads. You gotta come in. Look at these.
He's actually large though.
Look, don't stand too close to me. I ain't got no problem. We was talking about moisturizing. Quick question, because I think you're still in frame. You should be good. Do black people age better, or is it how often you put on lotion compared to white people?
I think we just age better.
There it is.
Naturally,
Yeah.
like I have oily skin, so like that. That's the game changer by itself.
But you don't know that. It could be all that lotion you put on. You know what I
don't
mean?
put on my face though.
You
I
don't-
put on my knees and
okay.
elbows.
Okay, that's it. That's it.
Ankles.
Grease the joints. Grease the joints.
And it still ain't
Too
helpful.
easy, man. Appreciate you. All right, so the 17 years question, right, was all the way back to, he said, like, I didn't know. I didn't know back then. So, yeah, 100%. In the 17 years, like when we first joined, when he joined, and when you joined, actually, when did you go in?
2004.
2004. I was 03.
03.
03, and then, was you like 90 what? 95? See what I'm saying?
Oh my God.
Hey, bro, give me some lotion out right now. I'm in these joints on the way out. You know what I mean? Jermaine looking younger than me. I'm probably like 8 years younger. All right, so back on task is when we went through selection, right, and you just getting beat up. Man, nobody knew anything about mobility. Nobody knew anything.
No.
All you knew was here's 800 milligrams of Motrin. If it gets worse, take 2, right? If it gets bad enough, take 3. Don't tell anybody, right?
Correct.
I remember when I was graduating dive school, I was taking 2,400 milligrams of Motrin at a time. And, like, my intestines were bleeding, but I had stress fractures all in my lower legs. I couldn't hardly even walk, much less run. But it's like, you know what? No food, because food would have slowed it down, and let's just go run 12 miles. Let's make this happen. And how much crazier is it now, some of the different, all the soft tissue stuff that they have available to operators and all that?
It's a real difference. So example is like I go once a week and get worked on. So obviously same. Like I got 4 out of 5 C's that are jacked up.
Yep.
T12, L1, L2 have all been broken or fractured multiple times. L5, sacrum, same. Shoulder, tricep.
And just for y'all's record, my man's been shot and blown up over here, so.
Yeah, so for that, like, the recovery now is way different than it was then because you didn't know what you didn't know. So now,
That's right.
arguably, like, the mechanisms you have for support are substantially higher than what they were in the beginning. Before, you just like, exactly. It's like, I mean, to a point now, it's still like Motrin and keep going.
Yeah,
you
of
finish
course.
whatever the thing is: training venue, deployment, rotation.
That's right.
Operational act, whatever. And then on the backside's like, we're gonna address that. Like my shoulder goes numb and my 2 fingers go numb, and I thought, yeah, let's get an MRI. And it's like, oh, you have 30% anterior wedging here, here, and here.
Mm-hmm.
This nerve is jacked. Like, so what do I do? Like, roll it out, soft tissue,
That's
Tim
right.
Tam, get it scraped. So,
That's right.
Yeah,
And
way
so
different.
before we kind of close this commentary wise, and I'm going to bring back to Lionel for a question. Just know for all you guys that are watching this that a bunch of the stuff we want to unpack, like how it is that you address this and how you break this apart, but twofold. One, if we only unpack just that, it would probably be mad boring if we talk through that alone. Two, there's so much dynamics to what it is to understand these principles. It's probably going to take us a couple podcasts to kind of to break that apart. So, we're here to entertain, have fun, and educate at the same time, and so we'll break that apart. And then for you, right? So it's the same thing. You didn't knowing what you knew then versus what you know now, and how much different we can approach you from fighting now and everything else. What do you think? What do you think the difference of as fighters come up now and they have all these opportunities necessarily, and not that all of them use it?
Right.
Actually, almost
Still,
a secondary question. How much do you think fighters utilize?
I think it's all levels.
Yeah.
As far as like what level you're on. Because
Yes, that's right.
High level athletes have 5 or 6 coaches.
That's right.
But if you're at the bottom, just getting started, it's one of those things like you just say you don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
So they're just seeing these guys still.
Yeah.
Like the way to the UFC. It's still very, very ugly. It's still very, very.
That's right. It's raw.
You know
That's
what I'm
it.
saying? Like you're
Yeah.
still fighting in places like Nighttown. And
That's
stuff
right.
like that.
That's it.
Right.
It's the warm-up.
So
But,
it's out there, but it's more. I think it's more on yourself to educate yourself. As far as like, you still can go on YouTube and you can still
That's
read
right.
blogs and you can still find all that stuff.
That's right.
Or you can still join a gym that's educated and
That's it.
learn from people. But I had a chance. I had a chance because I won't tell him to his face.
That's right.
But I was always sparring Paul, and Paul was always strong, and he had an enormous amount of cardio. And there's a dude named Isaiah. Isaiah was my best friend. We call him Boo Boo.
Yeah.
He used to come here too, and he would come here in the morning and then go to the Capital
right.
Spar, right?
That's right.
And I always wondered how these two dudes had so much energy and so much strength at the same time, like because you could never finish them. And they always tell me to come here, but I was still living in Panama City and commuting back and forth, so I never had time. But understanding that it was in front of me to answer your question, the education was there, but I refused to see it. So.
Well, the thing too is we had a little bit of probably an overall understanding and marketing issue. And so what I say next isn't meant to throw any shade as much as the situation as a whole is. When we first started, we were a CrossFit, right? So for you, when you were fighting, one of the things that we dealt with was we had a co-branding issue. And there's nothing wrong with CrossFit, but what we were doing specifically was a little bit different than maybe the guy down the street or kind of national level was, right? And we trained CrossFitters as well. I mean, we ended up sending 4 or 5 teams to regionals, but at the same time, we had people doing bodybuilding, we had people fighting, we had people doing different stuff. And so we ended up changing our brand to try to accurately reflect what it is that we do. We'll let them press. Hey, this time it's you. That's it.
Good morning.
Blake, keep on moving.
Blake said,
Keep on moving.
Blake said front row.
Go, buddy. I'll see you
Keep pressing. Keep pressing. Lionel can fix it all.
We can fix it. We can fix it. It's a family gym.
That's right. It's a family gym. And so either way, what we ended up having, I think sometimes for the fighters and stuff we had there was like Paul and these guys, they would go back over and they go, hey, you need to come do this CrossFit with us. And that was just the name of our gym at the time. And it didn't necessarily portray to the fighters what that looked like.
Right. Because on TV it was just, the power cleans and.
That's right. That's right.
We didn't know there was a conditioning side of it.
Right, exactly. And so that's one of the things that we still, if you want to do CrossFit, we love it. If you want to do bodybuilding, we love it. If you want to come back to fighting, we love it. If you want to do jiu-jitsu, we love it. Whatever it is, we want to aim our focus towards that. But kind of my last closing question was, as a fighter, knowing what you went through then to what you know now, what do you think the mental advantage is? Because that's what I think a lot about us, right? Is we didn't know anything except for Motrin. And so
I think mentally it's 100% of it. Like, I always call it 90% of it then. You know?
Right.
It's understanding that I could take a hit and you could be as strong as you want. You're not going to knock me out. But if I run out of breath,
that's
I can't do anything.
100%.
You can lay on me and you can beat me up.
That's
so
it.
understanding I had the condition to last long. I have the stamina to try to use a little bit of muscle and to understand, like, okay, to stop now
Right.
And I need 5 seconds to recover, then I can go right back.
That's
into
right.
it. That part of it.
And that's a huge part of
Right.
what
Right.
actually we have such similar pathways in this because I do jujitsu, right? Of course, and that's exactly it. Is knowing your strength training, and this is what's funny because whether you're a CrossFitter or whether you're doing jujitsu, anything that is performance based that has a stamina aspect to it. Just knowing from strength and conditioning where at the point in which you're about to break down, right?
Yep.
So like how to back that off at that moment, utilize some different movement patterns, try to change it up is a big deal. And the only way you're going to do that is to have a strength and conditioning that's going to allow you to go to end stage broke, right? And this is why we utilize so many rest rounds and stuff as well, is if all your stuff is set to be unbroken with no rest rounds, then you're constantly aiming at max efficiency, and max efficiency doesn't deplete you to the point of adaptation necessarily, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so we want obliteration, no, we want adaptation, right? So if we want to obliterate and you end up changing via just overall giant amounts of volume at an efficient level, then the outcome you get is joints are broken. In strength and conditioning, and this is no matter what you do out there, this is my advice for people, is figure out what it is that you're trying to actually train in those areas, target adaptation in those areas, and then whatever your individual sport is, like if you're a fighter, jiu-jitsu, even bodybuilding, because bodybuilding has like a giant stamina aspect, and there's nothing like retaining muscle and having stamina, right? So most people, again, even bodybuilding, don't think stamina, but how much stamina do you need, right? It's crazy, right? So stamina, it's wild. You know what I mean? You could look the best, and if you don't have stamina. So you have to have good conditioning in every sport, but strength reigns supreme. And so it's perfect timing.
There you go. Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's a podcast.
My man, it's hot, boy.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a great way to approach it. Kind of my last thought was from the mental aspect, no matter what training program you're doing, whatever you're doing, there's so many ways to add in good soft tissue and change adaptation.
Good morning. Go lift. Go do curls.
It's a family.
That's how you do it right there. That's how you do it right there, right? My man, starting them young. That's exactly it. So no matter what it is you do, strength training wise, whatever your program is, find some ways to do it smart, right?
Yeah.
That way you're getting the adaptation, but also find some ways for that mental edge challenge, right? Because I feel like early on, your early fight days, my man's been in the military since like 91, right?
Yeah.
Early operator stuff.
Hey, I'm just gonna accept everything.
That's it. So we didn't know any different. So all we knew was to get hard and get after it, right?
It had to hurt.
That's it. Had to hurt. Today it doesn't need to hurt in order to change, but find the hurts that challenge you, right? So like I try to piece these together. I try to train smart, and then I still find these mental challenges as often as possible. And I think that ensures that you stay hard, right?
Yeah.
But you know, as Goggins would say, stay hard. It helps you stay hard, but also allows you to not break your body along the way. No doubt.
For sure.
Any other thoughts on that?
Nah, man, that's dope.
Cool, man. So here's our promise to you guys. We'll keep unpacking this, and we'll probably start 15 minutes earlier. So
Yeah.
we don't have to. You know, hey, people got to get their swole going, and we respect that, right? It's exactly what we talked about. Mobilize and challenge. So we'll keep unpacking some of this through time. You guys, as we throw up questions, hit us up with questions, and we'll keep them coming. And I had a good mentor when I was young that told me that, like, listen, I could sit here and teach you a bunch of stuff, or you can ask me questions, right? Because targeted questions are going to help me teach you much faster than me trying to cover things that I think you need to know.
For sure.
No doubt, man. Cool. Closing thoughts?
No.
All right.
No,
Watch this
no.
awkwardness. I'm going to say hoo-yah.
And then we're
And you're going to
supposed
say
to.
never quit.
It's not gonna
But
happen,
these
right?
two can't synchronize this, right?
Okay.
You ready? Here we go. Hoo-yah.
Never quit.
That's the best we ever did.
And that's a wrap.
Yeah.
Dope.